Yes. Well, thank you very much, Valentina, and everybody for having me here. I too will not use a mic because you can't hear me. So, and the topic I'd like to, discuss with you over the next, 25 to 30 minutes. I call this the digital self. And actually, even though Alain and I did not agree on what we were going to talk about, it turns out that he actually set the stage beautifully for what I have to say. He does. And privacy is a fascinating subject. I work in a very large agency, like maybe perhaps some of you, and we very much subscribe to the point of view that Alain explained, i.e. we worry about privacy. And we worry about privacy today. It's something, talk to you about something that does not exist, something that nobody cares about yet. But I believe that the future orientation of this conversation, we're a relatively small group of people that have given up 4 days of holiday to listen to some people like ourselves. Well, it's a good standpoint because I think the drive to I don't know some Pirate Bay and so people that want to advertise to me will place their innocent advertising that doesn't support piracy at all on something that happens to appear on Pirate Bay. And so indirectly they pay Pirate Bay money, and that's a big issue because, well, do we want for this to happen? If I'm Procter & Gamble, I'm not sure I want for this to happen. But at the same time, I want to reach that very consumer. So here's a problem. Where does the responsibility end, and so on and so forth. But that only shows, so there is, again, a corporate, a brand side of the problem, which is, do I want my advertising to show up here? But the consumer side of the problem shows that content is traveling without ownership. There is this famous case of who owns this data, who controls this data. Because the digital self is not so much, as I said at the beginning, it's not so much a question of legislation. Pardon me, Alain, but I think the legislation is the easy one. Because, okay, we get this 1,000 people there in Brussels, and they're all very reasonable people. And if we make this case, I don't think there would be one that said, no, that's wrong. They all would say, oh, that's absolutely right. Why haven't thought of this before, right? Why could we possibly haven't thought of this before? You're absolutely right. Let's have a vote. 1,000 votes in favor. Let's pass it. Done. Right? But then the question becomes, how do I control myself? Because this stuff is still somewhere. Right? My photos are still on Facebook. My connections are still on LinkedIn. So, legislation is one thing, but how do I do it? So, what are the characteristics?
Don't you think part of the challenge that the digital space in general is this whole privacy that you create to yourself? Maybe you don't want to create anonymity around yourself and you want to have alternative selves, so this is part of the challenge.
It's a great point to raise it, because every time brands are complaining about being authentic, being honest, being sincere, which is also something I subscribe to your point. That doesn't mean that everything is open and honest and transparent and whatever, but it means you decide. That's my whole